Um, my name is Brittany Smith, and currently I'm a Chebar Ministries media specialist and liaison, but I didn't start out that way. I started out 18 years old in the Georgia prison system with a 20 to serve 10. And that's a heavy weight for an 18-year-old to know that you're going to get out when you're 28 years old. And I met Pamela when I was, I would say probably around 20. And we were in the Faith and Character program together. And this is kind of when Chebar Ministries didn't even have a name yet. This is from the very beginning. And she started a group called Daughters of Zion, and everybody participated, and it allowed us to apply ourselves within the Bible and really see different aspects. We later went on into Jeremiah and talked about the captives, and everything was just a sense of freedom at that point when you realize that people that God loved, just absolutely loved, God's people were captives. And he put them through trials and tribulations to teach them and make them wiser and make them great, a great nation. And it makes you look at things a lot differently. Instead of just sitting there wasting away 10 years in a prison, you start looking at things like, I can do this time. I can spend every day doing something to better myself. And that's how I faced. I ended up not doing 10 years. I said, I don't deserve this. I'm not going to do this. And I kept writing the parole board. My first early release date would be 9 years and 9 months off of the 10 years I was originally given. My second release date was 7 years and 6 months. And finally, I talked them down to 6 years and 6 months. And I got out within 30 days of the date that they had gave me. You know, I've always been one to kind of look around and try to seek God. I've never been like, oh, just Christianity. I've experimented from one end of the spectrum to the other, from the occult to the Bible. And I still ended up with God, with Jesus Christ. And the reason is this. I stopped asking myself, is the Bible real? And I started asking myself instead, does the Bible say anything bad? Is there anything in this holy book that is negative to my life? And the answer is no. It only applies positive aspects to my life. And at that point in time, I hadn't come that far with my journey with Pam. And it wasn't until after Pamela had left. I went through a bit of a depressed stage. I ended up moving. I graduated the Faith and Character program, and when you do that, you move to a different dorm. So all your friends and everybody that you've spent years knowing, you go to another location, so you know no one. And I was going through a lot at that time, and it was around Christmas. And I got a card from Pamela out of nowhere. And I said, oh, she's just going to be like everybody else. I'm not even going to write her back. And I didn't. But she wasn't. And she didn't care that I didn't write her back, I'm sure, because she understood. And she kept writing me. And then I realized, wow, this lady's here to stay. She isn't someone who's going to leave me behind. And she's here to stay. I have a friend. And we started writing back and forth. My family didn't have much financially. They had just went through a divorce. They had lost their home. But I always received a Christmas package from Pamela. Always. And it feels good to have a couple of goodies, a piece of chocolate even, in your locker. And you can share that with friends. And you can bring it out and make a little meal and just have a Christmas dinner. No, it's not with your family. But nonetheless, it's with loved ones. It's people that you've built a bond with. And it's the closest thing to home that you can have. Absolutely. Pamela, always so gracious and humble. She was very fortunate while she was in prison, and she knew that others were not that fortunate. There was times where I've seen her give $30 of store, which is goods, soups and stuff to eat on weekends and stuff like that, because you only get 2 meals a day. She didn't care. It was no object for her. Someone who hadn't had something in a long time, it would just be a gift. And they would be so, it just renews your faith, in humanity. When somebody is just so giving and kind like that, you could always ask her for anything and she would give you the shirt off her back. We'd have these wonderful prayer sheets coming on beautiful sheets of paper, and Pamela would send me 20 at a time that I could give them out to people in the dorm. You never know who's in the dorm, and dorms consist of 100 females. And it was always so nice and refreshing. When I finally got out of prison, I finally got to see Pamela, and she, this is before the ministry had really started, and she wasn't getting donations, and she didn't care. God had weighed such a weight on her heart. She gave to me from her own stuff. She made sure I had clothes. She made sure I had enough money. She made sure I had 2 couches. I had a TV. It was so amazing to get out from being 18 years old to being 25 years old. To get out of prison and have all these worries and only have a mattress and barely hanging on to an apartment. And have a friend that stuck by you and says, don't worry, I've got this. And to just give. Just give. It renews your faith in humanity. You lose so much faith in humanity seeing people fight and argue and the things that you go through in prison. You start losing that faith in each other and humanity, and you just don't see that type of kindness. And Pamela she made sure I kept mine. I think support's a big issue right now with Chebar Ministries. The main thing that I can emphasize on is faith in humanity, goodness towards one another. Just living like Jesus Christ lived, wanting to give and to love one another. And when you've been through something like that, where you feel you don't hear from anybody. I was 20 years old and I didn't hear from anybody in my family for over a year. And it wasn't because they didn't love me or they forgot about me. They just had so much going on. Life doesn't stop. But when you're a kid like that, you don't realize, and you don't make logical sense out of that. You feel unloved, alone, and you feel, you'll steal all the salt from the kitchen to get a soup so you can eat on the weekends. And when you start living your life like that, when you live 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of having to take stuff and sell stuff and trade stuff and hustle just to be able to have 3 meals a day or to be able to eat something decent, because food can be very unedible at times. It turns you animalistic. You get very primal. And you don't care about things anymore, and you start losing your sense of self. And it's just like everything goes away. Like you don't see bright, pretty colors. You don't have nice clothes. You wear the same thing day in and day out, and it plays a huge mental toll on somebody to have such lack. And then when you see somebody who has everything, who gets all this money and food, and you are sitting there with nothing, you don't understand why your family can't send you $5 for you to be able to eat. You lose hope in humanity. You can't logically sit there and deduce they're losing their home, they're going through a divorce. That's not what you think about. You just have this overwhelming feeling of loneliness. And it's hard. Not even to be able to talk on the phone. That's almost $5. Well, it's $3 to $5 a phone call to be able to call your loved ones. And that's a lot of money for somebody who doesn't have any. And it takes a big toll. And when you bring Chebar Ministries into the mix, You have mentors who write you. You're going to get Christmas cards and letters and updates and prayer sheets, devotionals. You're going to have all these different things that steer you in the right direction, that are going to lead you towards God, which is a great foundation to build anything in your life off of. And that's what Chebar Ministries is trying to do, what they have succeeded in doing with me. If anything, I feel like I'm definitely the living testament for LifeChangers Legacy. Pamela never wavers. She is a constant firecracker. She's always giving. She's always kind. Pamela's always kind and funny and giving. She never changes. She's always Pamela. She never leaves you. And I think I can't really emphasize that enough. She's always there. She's so steady. She's a constant. I've been out for almost 2 years now. I have a 9-month-old son. And Pamela's still there. Pamela has not left me. She has not forgotten me. She's still there. She is still my friend. Supporting the individuals in prison, there's many different ways that it needs to be done. You know, they need people to send them a letter saying, hey, how are you doing? They need devotionals and books to steer them in the right direction. They need some form of financial resources for hygienic purposes as well. You know, they issue you a bar of soap, and that is all. A bar of soap, a thing of toothpaste this big that's going to last you a month, and a toothbrush. You get a bar of soap once a week. You don't get shampoo. You don't get conditioner. You don't get hair ties. In the bar of soap, some women can't use it for feminine reasons. And it's to be brought down to that level to where all you have to your name is a bar of soap and a tube of toothpaste that you have to make last all month, or you're not going to be able to brush your teeth. That's humiliating, and it just brings you down to such a low level within yourself. And then not only that, you have no outside contact with anyone. No one's writing you and saying, hey, I love you, keep your head up, you're doing a good job. You don't have any of that. You're eating horrible food every day, sometimes only 2 meals a day, sometimes such small portions that you can eat 2 trays and not be full. And it just brings you down. It suffocates the life out of you. You lose faith in yourself. You lose faith in humanity. And it can just take $5 a week. That's enough for a good bar of soap and a thing of shampoo that'll last me a month, if not longer, depending on how frequently you wash your hair. You know, when you break down the numbers and you see how much it really takes, the number's so small. It's so small. It's hard to understand why the state would want to put more effort forth to someone who's about to be your neighbor, who's about to be your coworker. You know, these people aren't just shoved away in some corner for the rest of their life, for the rest of your life, for the rest of my life. We work with you. We live next door to you. And we're not receiving rehabilitation. We are not receiving rehabilitation. And had it not be for Chebar Ministries, with me going in at 18 years old with no guidance, I can only imagine where I'd be had it not been for a positive influence like Pamela Hillman now. Pamela Hillman.